Hello, everyone. Today, we have a very special lecture as part of the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Memorial International Conclave 2020. As you all know, this conclave was started with the view to immortalize the final lecture of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam at IIM Shillong, which was on the topic of creating a livable planet Earth. And of course, this is a topic which has remained relevant. As part of today's lecture on this topic, I have a person whom I have read about, and you've also read about in vast detail. I have referred to his work, I have referred to his books, his papers, his enterprise and his ideas in several of our books. In fact, the first book which Dr. Kalam and I co-authored together, which was Target 3 Billion, which talked about the concept of Pura, providing urban amenities in rural areas. In Target 3 Billion, one of the books which we referred and one of the persons we have referred quite often is none other than my guest today. My guest today is a well-known global social entrepreneur, a banker, an economist, and a civil society leader. He was awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize for founding the Grameen Bank, now I've given you the clue, and pioneering the concept of microcredit and microfinance. Of course, my guest today is none other than Professor Muhammad Yunus. Professor Yunus received the United States Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2009 and the Congressional Gold Medal in the year 2010. He's rated #2 in Foreign Policy magazine's list of top 100 global thinkers. He's a wonderful thinker. And of course, he's also a wonderful doer because his Grameen Bank idea pioneered the idea of microfinance, not just in his own country, Bangladesh, but in many other countries, including India. He is the former Chancellor of the Glasgow Caledonian University in Scotland, and he's published, as you all know, many books, many articles related to microcredit, social inclusion, the new age economics. He's a motivational figure, an icon for especially the youth. His ideas on social business have resonated across campuses in the world and across young hearts, and he has served on board of director of the United Nations Foundation. There's a long introduction. I can go on and on and on and on, but I think it's best to hear from the person himself. So please welcome Professor Muhammad Yunus. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Delighted to be with you.
So, right. So my first question to you actually begins in the year 1983, and that's I wasn't even born when you started this venture. Now a globally acclaimed idea, and not just a venture, it's now a globally renowned concept, which was the Grameen Bank. And I want to know, what was your motivation to start that way back in 1983, and what have been the key learnings from it?
Well, 1983 was way down the line. We started in 1976. We had a terrible famine in 1974 in Bangladesh. Lots of people died, and I was teaching economics in one of the universities, surrounded by villages. So you can see the extreme poverty and hunger right there, right around the university campus. And you can't avoid them because it's right in front of you. So I tried to see what's happening. How come economics that I teach has no meaning in their life? And I felt useless completely, that I cannot be of any use to all these people. So I thought economics is not something that I would like to pursue. I would like to figure out how people can overcome their problems. So I started working with the poor people in the village next door and see if I can make myself useful, even for one day, for one person. So that was a very minimal kind of approach that I had. And trying to make me feel that I'm some way useful to people. So that led me to do little things here, little thing there, all individual to individual kind of thing. And I saw a lot of loan sharking in the village over time for months. Then I saw how they become victimized by the loan sharks, and the horrible stories after the stories I hear. And I talk to the people who are victimized. I talk to the people who are making them victims, both sides. Then I said, my God, how to protect these people? Economics doesn't teach me anything about how to protect these people. So one idea that came, why don't I lend the money myself? so that they don't have to go to loan shark. It's easy. The problem is solved. It doesn't reach out to millions. It can reach out to few, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. And at least I have protected that many people. So that's how I started giving money out of my own pocket and tell them that if you need money, before you go to the loan shark, you come to me. I'll explain to you how I do it. And it's easy. All you have to do is to pay me back. You don't worry about the interest or anything, all the other conditionalities. People love that. It became very popular. And I made it bigger with the support of my students coming and helping me. And I had the money in my pocket, so I could keep the money. At one time, it became so big, we thought, why don't we create a bank out of it for the village? So that's the idea of banking, because we are lending money, getting the money back, etc. So it took a lot of time to convince the banking authority to give me the license. In 1983, finally, we got the license. We started in 76, finally got the license to become a bank in 1983. So we are delighted. That's how it all began.
And how was your experience initially about the repayment? Was it always
always good? That's how we came to the idea of bank, because people are paying back every penny. We had no problem with payment issue. Simply, we are overcoming the reluctance of people to take money, since we are focusing on women. One of the basic decisions we took right from the beginning, because I was making accusation against the banking system. Not only they don't lend money to the poor, they don't lend money to women of any kind. Even she's a rich woman, still bank will not lend money. They will always ask to bring her husband and talk with the husband and so on. So women never got into the banking, taking money from the bank. So I thought this is all absolutely odd that they do in the wrong way. So when I was doing it, I wanted to make sure half the borrowers in my program are women. So I go to the women say, no, give it to my husband. I don't want to do that. I was afraid. They're terribly scared of touching money. Some will say, I never touched money in my life. So I'm so afraid that I will not do that. I will create a lot of problems in my family if I do that. So I have to overcome all those fears of unknown, fears of things that never happened to them. So that slowed down a lot of things. Those are the kind of things we are struggling with. It's not the repayment, it's the giving the money, having the money to them. That's kind of thing. Money was supposed to be male thing. It's not nothing to do with the female thing. And our commitment was very clear. Unless we get the women, we can't take the men. So it has to be 50-50. So they were slowing down. Men were dancing around to get money, but women are running away from us. So this is one. There are many other problems. Since we want to take women, men got very upset because they thought we were destroying their families by giving money in the hands of their wives. The religious people got very upset. They thought we are destroying the religion by giving money to women. They should be staying home rather than out in the street selling things, doing things outside. So all kinds of opposition. Political people get very upset. They thought this is we are putting the seeds of capitalism in the villages, while the whole nation is trying to move toward the revolution, the socialist revolution. Their dream of socialism. They thought we are the agents of American agencies or something. And the right thought we are Communist Party. We're setting the Communist Party in, working with the poor people. So we are in between. Each one is looking at us with suspicions. So among this, we have to work. And luckily, it worked very well, all along.
Absolutely. I guess all new ideas face opposition from all sides.
Absolutely.
And so with your effort and with your pioneership and innovation, the industry of microfinance grew over the world, across India. But it makes me wonder that why is it even now the whole microfinance model not embedded in our banking system? I mean, we don't see it in India. I guess it happen anywhere in the world.
Anywhere. Yeah. You ask this is the major question I keep on asking rather than give the answer. So see, microcredit is applauded all over the world. It's been replicated all over the world, not only in India. You go anywhere in the world, there's a microcredit program, there's a Grameen program. They even call them Grameen program to make sure that the people understand what they're doing. So we became a big brand name for all this work around the world. And it works as good as it does in Bangladesh and India and other places. But they give me award, they give me prizes, they give me honors, they give me honorary degrees, they give me Nobel Peace Prize, they give all kinds of honors, but they don't do it. I said, what is the fun? I mean, you say it's good, you say you're doing good, but you don't want to do it. You see, after all these years, now some 42 years, 43 years after, it's still microcredit is a footnote in the whole chapter or the book on banking. It never made it to be mainstream. So I think it's because the whole idea of banking is so foreign to the people who run it, to do the banking for the poor people. They cannot understand how you should do that, why you should do that. I said, look, Grameen Bank gets the money back. Its repayment rate is higher than any bank in the country, anytime, despite all the floods, all the cyclones, all the corona pandemics and so on. Still, Grameen repayment rate is high, it continues to remain high, and it it makes surplus, it creates profit. We never ran into losses. It runs by its own money. So what is your problem? Why don't you want to do that? So, and finally, I see that this is a kind of a clash, that they don't like the way we do it, because it's a free from collateral. I said, if it can be done free from collateral, why should you hang on to the collateral? Why don't you try our way? It's not a mystery. It's not something we're hiding something. We will train you how to do that. But for God's sake, do it, because bulk of the people, as in some countries, 75% of the people are outside the scope of the banking system. So how do you create a society without the banking system, without the financial system? They are the victims of loan sharks, all of them. So you have a thriving business of the loan sharks. They make all the money because by lending money to the poor people, whereas banking system stayed completely outside of it. I said, financial service is like an economic oxygen to people. If you do not provide that oxygen, people cannot breathe, cannot become economically active. The moment you connect them with that financial oxygen, people become alive, active, creative. And you have a whole class of entrepreneurs all around. When you talk about microcredit, it's all about entrepreneurship. All these millions and millions of women who take money, they're not looking for a job with this money. They're starting a business. Business is small, but it's a business. They make money, they pay back the bank, and they give the interest, and they have their own surplus. They move on to the next level and the next level and so on. Continue to do that. So if you have the entrepreneurial class right there, why don't you mobilize everything to support them so they can move up? You don't do that. So that is the kind of a surprise that we see. And we keep telling that what are the problem? Problem is a legal problem. Banking license is not given to the microcredit people. So they hang on to the funds coming from the banks at their mercy. They cannot generate their own deposits and so on because the law doesn't allow them. There is no law for microcredit banking because the conventional banking license do not allow you to create microcredit banking. This is so different. You can perform expected way. So why don't you create a separate banking law for the microcredit? Why don't you give, now recently what I'm telling, discussing with the Indian friends, I said, why don't you have already done the small finance banks. Why don't you give them a license to all the microcredit people, a social business microcredit banking license or social business small finance banking license, so that they can be on their own. They don't have to be dependent on anybody. Now today, because they are dependent, when the corona pandemic came, they are all now looking for where is the liquidity, who is giving us the liquidity. If they are on their own, they will be managing their own liquidity. Now they don't have that liquidity. So these are the problems. It's a massive one. It's a huge number of people. You call them informal sector because economics cannot handle them. So you have to come to the formal sector, become formal labor. Until then, you are nobody. I said, that's wrong. You call them micro-entrepreneurial sector. Then everything will happen. You have to look at the micro-entrepreneurial sector in a different way. This is the base of the entire entrepreneurship pyramid of the country. At the top, you have the billion-dollar entrepreneur. In the middle, you have the million-dollar entrepreneur. At the bottom, you have the $1,000 micro entrepreneurs. They are the strength of the whole economy. So you bring all your financial forces to support them. You create microfinance banks, you create social business venture capital fund, investment fund, and it has to be in a social business spirit, meaning that we create this business not to make money for ourselves, but to serve people without any personal profit out of it. That's what we call social business, non-dividend company. Then you get rid of all those ideas about becoming loan shark yourself, which India has done in the past.
And I think so that's truly a democratization of the financial institution itself. I mean, that's true democracy in that sense, when people have a democratic right on financial institutions. And that's
when in the early years, when I was trying to explain microcredit, people would not listen. So I started saying credit should be accepted as a human right. It's a human right issue. You are denying me my right. I'm not stealing from you. I'm saying give me the facility so that I can carry on my life. I have lots of creative ideas, lot of entrepreneurial energy in me. So just try me out. If I fail to do it, then you blame me. Until then, you cannot do that. And already we have so many examples all around, but still we have to stay away from them. So that's the kind of thing. Our minds are contaminated with old ideas. With the coronavirus coming, all the economic machine put into sleep, I think this is a good time to be bold and take bold decisions to make a different kind of financial system than we have been used to.
Absolutely, I am with you on that, sir. And you talked about the social business idea. In fact, I remember when Dr. Kalam and I, we were writing our first book together. It was called Target 3 Billion. And I referred to several of your books, which were talking about various ideas. And one of the ideas which you have been advocating, and we also discussed it when you were in India, was this idea of social business. You touched upon it briefly here as well. So I want you to just explain quickly what is that and how is it different from something which we call social entrepreneurship or a typical NGO or a typical company? How is it different from that?
I remember Dr. Kalam writing to me and very fond of our work. And he came to my office, spent a lot of time discussing and understanding. We took him to the villages to see how it's amazing interest in the work that we are doing. This is the way to do. And I said, I'll invite you to come to India. I met him in India again. So we interacted a lot. He has a lot of support for the idea that we have been promoting. The reason we do the social business, I think the whole economic theory went in the wrong path. It started with the idea of a human being. It's built around the human being, which is driven by self-interest, meaning selfish interest. All you want to do is to do things for yourself. I said, that's a wrong human being you're promoting. That's not the real human being. Real human being is driven by self-interest, is also driven by common interest. That common interest part you never included in your economic theory. As a result, it became a selfish economics. So sometimes we call, or most of the time we call economics as a social science. I said, what is the social there? I don't see anything social about economics. It could be a business science, it could be something else, but definitely is not a social science. It doesn't talk about the society. It talks about selfish interest, maximization of profit, business, and so on. So I said it should create a human being which is driven by both, not just one, common interest and self-interest. Then you have two kinds of business. One is for self-interest, which we have already, and the other one, which you don't have, you have to create, is driven by common interest. And that one is profit maximization, and that is zero personal profit. So this is the opposite. That's a common interest. Whole attention is to solve the problem of the people in a business way. Cover the cost, but generate profit, but don't take the profit for yourselves. Keep it inside the business itself. So this is the way it should be done. And that's what we call social business, a non-dividend company. What is the difference from NGO? NGO is usually a charity organization. It raises money for a good cause, for healthcare, for education, for the construction of houses, whatever, some good causes, but with charity. All kinds of charity organizations. NGO is one of those charity organizations. But social business is a business. It has to have a business plan. It has to cover the cost with all the elements that any business has to cover, and create a surplus. And that surplus has to roll back into the business. It has to be a long-term plan. So in charity, we give the money to do something good. And money goes out, it never comes back. And that's the idea. It's not somebody cheating. We give it away. That's what the charity is, giving away. So if I'm running a healthcare program on a charity, I donate it and they use it for the year. At the end of the year, they don't have anything. So next year, you have to give them fresh money to start the whole year again. And at the end of the year, they don't have anything. So they're always running around to raise money, which they're out of their own generosity and tenacity, they do that. But if it's a social business, then we invest in the healthcare program. And we run the program, money comes back. So the difference between a charity or NGO and the social business is, in charity, money goes out, it never comes back. In social business, money goes out, does the job, and comes back. So you have a very powerful money in your hand. In charity, you have one-time use of the money. In social business, you have endless use of the same money. So it comes back again and again. So you don't have to raise funds for yourself. If you raise more funds as an investment, and that investment make it grow rather than do the same thing all over again. So this is the basic difference between the two. And what is the difference between the conventional business and the social business? In conventional business, you run the business to maximize profit. So you squeeze everything so that you can charge high price so that you can make the maximum possible profit. So your attention is always the profit. In social business, your attention how to solve the problem, healthcare, how to solve the healthcare problem of the people. And at the same time, you get your money back and make it as affordable as possible so that you can solve the problem of the people at the bottom. So that's the difference. Here, your self-interest is a driving force. You want to make money out of the people. Even if you're serving the poor people, you want to see how much money you can charge them so that you can make money. You serve the poor, fine, but your profit maximization idea doesn't surrender, it continues. But in social business, serving the people is the most important thing. In a way, it becomes sustainable. The sustainability is the key. Personal profit is zero. So that's the difference between conventional business and social business.
And so, have you also explored ideas such as having, say, a stock exchange where social businesses could be listed and people could invest in these ideas?
We talked about it in my book. I talked about it, but then I saw many people got interested, started social business, stock market, and so on. Then I saw all of this in India or in Singapore and many other places. They create social business, so social stock exchange. What they do is this is just a fundraising. This is for charity. It's not an investment. So that had been misled. People got confused what this is. So we don't do that. We create social business funds. We ask them to invest in social business funds, social business venture capital funds, social business insurance funds, and all kinds of funds, so that you can take the money, invest it, and return the money and move on with your business to solve the problem that you want to solve.
Right. So just from a philosophical perspective, we are seeing a world where disparity is actually increasing. And statistically, that is pretty much proven. There's divide between rural and urban, which got so well on display during the COVID crisis. There's disparity between countries and cities and genders and races, and so many disparities we live in this world. Do you think truly we can realize a world where there is no poverty, there is no nobody's poor, and at least economically poor, and poverty is totally reduced?
I'll put it this way. I usually do that. Said the poverty is not created by the poor people. Poverty is created by the system that we created. And that's the root cause of all the poverty. So if you change the system, poverty will be gone. So as long as your system remains, no matter how much watering you do to the plant, it will not grow, because you have the wrong kind of gene into it. So you have to design it the right way. So all the problems you see about the differences in men, women, and urban, rural, all because the wrong design of the economics itself. Just to give you the urban-rural thing, and the pandemic has shown in a vivid way how wrong our system is. We saw massive migration of people because of the fact that they don't have any income, they don't have any job, where they lived in the cities far away from their homes. Now they cannot pay the rent, they don't have any money to eat. So they said, only place we can go back is at home. And they started moving out of the cities, going to the highway and making a journey, 1,000 miles journey to reach home on foot. How
Right.
sad it can be. And you saw it and we saw it every day. And we felt terrible that we create an economy where you have to go 1,000 miles for basic survival. And it's not making people rich, they go there. They just for survival, leaving their home, leaving their children, and make this 1,000 mile journey for doing that. So why don't we create an economy where people must be able to have their basic survival livelihood right where they're born? Is it too difficult? Why rural economy has to be an appendix to the urban economy? Tell me. Who designed that kind of thing? Absurd thing. Why doesn't the rural economy become an economy by itself? It has all the resources. You have the people, you have the agricultural produce, you have the forestry produce, whatever you have, they have it. Urban area doesn't have anything, but they get all the butter out of it, all the fruit out of this whole thing coming up. So funny thing is, rural areas are looked at kind of labor producing factory for the urban area. They supply the labor from here. So they go to urban areas to find a job so that they can livelihood. Because rural area shouldn't look at their livelihood. They should send their young people to work in the urban areas. And the rural areas produce everything, agricultural product, forestry products, and everything. They send it to the urban area to be processed. I said, isn't it funny? You're sending your people, you're sending your produce to go someplace to process it. Why don't you do it yourself? What's wrong with you? The idea of city came because when the technology was far, far behind, there's infrastructure problem. You don't have the communication, you don't have the financial infrastructure, you don't have the meeting place for people. So you brought in one place, everything is in one place. Today, that idea is obsolete. Anywhere is today, you can be in a remote place talking to me right now. It doesn't make any difference. And you can have a global conference sitting there moderating from that place to the whole world. Doesn't matter. The roads are there, highways are there, electricity is there. So why are you still thinking that 1,000 years back or the cities have to be built so that we can bring everything in one place? Facilities can be created. Facilities are already there. So I said, now why don't we make rural economy as an independent economy and have them all the things that they can do and they don't have to. It should be a separate independent economy dealing with urban economy and also the rest of the world. They don't have to deal with the nearest city. They can work with any part of the world. If there is a call centers attached to it in the building in the urban city, 10th floor, 20th floor building, the people call centers. Why can't we do it in the rural area? What's wrong with the rural area?
Right.
Anything can be done in the rural area. All the software business, all the things that you need to do, go there. Any factory can be built in the rural area because everything is there. So it's a kind of mental block. So unblock that thing. Coronavirus gave us the impetus to unblock, to make bold decisions, outrageously bold decisions, undo the things we have done in the past to force people to go 1,000 miles. We say our commitment will be nobody should leave home for bare survival purposes. We have enough facility around you to make sure you have a decent life. You can walk to your work every day and come home with your children. And then women become released. Because today women cannot go. Men go out, women stay home. And that's the distinction why women stay behind and stay down and become downtrodden of all kinds.
So, you're absolutely right. Somehow, I feel the notion is that rural areas are somehow, just associated with agriculture. It seems that agriculture is the only thing rural people could do. That's the urban.
Because you didn't give any chance. You would have taken agriculture too in the urban areas if you could. You don't have the land. They have the land. That's why it's left there. You can take the land with you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would have taken it. It's all mentality. That's all.
Right.
Why industry is set in the urban areas? God knows. It could be in the rural areas too, because they have the infrastructure. They have the electricity, have the communication. Everything is there. Why the garment industry in Bangladesh should be in Dhaka city? Tell me. All the women for all over Bangladesh come here to work. Why don't those garment industry go to their village? And it's all the sewing machine. That's all.
In fact, India had 150 million people from rural areas who work in urban areas, which is the last count we had when the migration started happening. It brings me to another question. You had touched about the technology part. Do you think technology can be, through the social business idea which you have promoted and pioneered, do you think technology could be that non-linear tool which can help social businesses, make rural economy vibrant and the gap between urban and rural be reduced?
To me, technology is not the key. Sounds funny, but it's not the key. It's the mind. What we want to do is the key. Technology is the tool. If I made up the mind what I want to do, I will build the tool to do it. And that's the technology. Now the technology is something in the hands of the money makers. They want to make money out of this technology. So they use it for making money. If I'm the one who is trying to change the society, undo the wrong world, and make it right, I'll be using technology for that purpose. So technology doesn't have its mind. That's the point I was making. Is the mind is here. I designed the technology to do it the same way, right way. Like I mentioned, the banking system, I was kind of sharing with you why this 42 years banking system remained the way it is. Banking system was not designed by God. It's designed by you and me. That's what the banking system is. If you design it another way, it will be working. If you have the technology and so on to make it happen faster. Technology makes it easier. That's the role of the technology. Whatever you want to do, they will make it easier for you. Technology doesn't solve the problem for you. It only helps you to solve the problem. So if you can change, if the banking system is a kind of a software, you redesign the software so that it brings the services to the poor people. And everything will be done. Nothing is impossible for people. Simply, we don't want to do it. So either we're too lazy or too selfish to do something else. So technology, again, is a technology doesn't have its mind, number one. Technology can be a curse. Technology can be a blessing. The question is, which direction I and you want to take it.
So technology is a tool, the intent of the user matters. That's
absolutely.
Bring in, on the name of users, I want to bring in some of the audience which wanted to ask you questions. I would first like to invite Miraz Mondal. He's a IIM Indore student, and he has a question for you regarding some of the ideas he has. Over to you, Miraz. Why don't you go ahead? Ask your question.
Hi, Miraz.
Hi, sir. Sir, I have two questions at present. So, number one is, I'm right now at an early stage of my post-graduation, and I look forward to be a social entrepreneur, but I'm not sure if this is the right time or if I'm ready. If the checklist is ready, and there are a lot many students like me in my batch. So, what would your advice be to such students? And second is, just to be more clear about your definition of social entrepreneurship, can we say that Indian railway system falls under social entrepreneurship because the motive is not profit maximizing and the surplus goes back to the system again?
Yeah, let me clarify. I talk about social business. It's a kind of a definition of a particular kind of business. A business which is dedicated to solving a problem. It doesn't have anything else in its mind. Just focus on a problem and solve it in a business way. And you never take any dividend out of this business. You own that business, but you don't want to take any dividend out. It's your decision. And then it becomes a social business. It's a non-dividend company to solve the human problem. Now you come to railway. Who owns the railway? Government owns the railway. Does government want to make profit out of it? Does government just to say that it's a service I have to provide, even if I lose money, I have to do that? Then it's not a business. First of all, it has to be business, meaning that it has to cover the cost. Does railway cover the cost? All the expenses and everything is absolutely precisely cover the cost and create a surplus. And surplus has to be plowed back into the business. Does government do that? No. Government, if there's a surplus, government will take it to the treasury, the finance ministry will take it there. It will not be left to the railway. The railway is only earn money for the government. then it's not a business itself. This is kind of a wing of a income generating services for the government. That's all. So that's how the difference is. So there'll be owners and there'll be dividends, which we don't want to take. And it should not be dependent on any charity, any government subsidy or anything. No subsidy is allowed in a business. That's the kind of thing. So this is how. And you talked about your age. Age is no matter. If you're in high school, you could be an entrepreneur too. And they do. Many of the successful entrepreneurs started it while they're in college. All the big guys that we know, Mark Zuckerberg and
Google founders.
Google founders, all those people are high school dropouts or college dropouts. So don't worry about your education. Has nothing to do with the entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is you. You need education if you are looking for a job because you need a certificate. Without certificate, you don't get a good job. So in order to get a good job, you need a certificate. For business, you don't need a certificate. You need an idea, you need energy and dedication to get it done. Whether you want to make money for yourself or you want to do a social business, that's up to you to decide. Whichever you want to do that. Okay?
Right. Thank you, Blas. So, fabulous answer. I think very motivating. And Sahil Gupta is our next young person who's going to ask a question. And his question comes, he's an IIM Ahmedabad graduate and he's into consulting industry. Sahil, over to you.
Greetings of the day, sir. It's great to have this opportunity.
Hello, Sahil.
So my question is related to your idea of microfinance. So do you think that we can somehow integrate microfinance in existing government schemes like Stand Up India and Atmanirbhar Bharat?
You see, as I mentioned earlier, I said finance is like an oxygen, economic oxygen. Without economic oxygen, you cannot breathe. Economically, you cannot remain active. The moment you connect with the economic oxygen, you become active. So whether you call it Atmanirbhar Bharat or you call it whatever program you have, if you want the people to be self-reliant, want to do things on their own, you need this financing as oxygen. And whatever, if you are in the top level, you still need oxygen to make it a big one, and the industry and so on and so forth. So that is essence to make you work, make you do things, because otherwise you're going to take a step forward without financing. And that since you cannot do that and the banking system will not give you the money, you end up with the loan shark. And loan shark is the guy who, before you put it in your pocket, he wants to take it in his pocket and more. And then you destroy your life and you commit suicide ultimately because you cannot cope with this anymore. You earn the money for him. You become a slave for the money lender. But we have not removed money lender from our system. If we had a good financial system, there's no reason for any loan shark because I take care of you. Why should you go to loan shark when I have all the facilities for you in a decent way, in a legal way, everything is transparent way? We don't have that. So loan sharking is a thriving business. As long as loan sharking stays in an economy, your system is a wrong system. Financial system is a wrong system. And that is the sickness of the economic system, that you have loan sharks. So you don't have to go any place else. Check in your city, check your village, whether you have loan shark. If you have loan shark, you have not done your job yet as a society, as a community, as a nation. For everybody. Same for the United States. They have the same problem. It's not just India or Bangladesh. Same problem everywhere. Because economic system, the way we design, is for the rich people. It's not for the common people. So we have to design an economic system for the common people. And that's where all the system is different. We created microcredit, we created Grameen Bank. It's not like the big bank that you see in India. It's a strange bank. It does things absolutely the other way, not the same way the other banks do. Why don't they do it? Because they get used to it, they have more fun, they make more money. Profit maximization is their ultimate motive. They don't care whether people died, whether they're victims of loan sharks, or the loan sharks have a heyday out of the poor people because they have no other place to go.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Professor Yunus, emanating from what you've been saying and what I've been listening, I think not only we need a new economic system, we also need new economic education. I think
sure, everything. Not only economic education. Sorry to stop you. We need a new education, not economic system.
Yes.
New education. Today, education system is designed to make you qualified to find a job. The entire thing is to make you ready for the job. That's all. So I teach you everything with the people who will hire you will check on you that whether you have done that. So to satisfy the employer, why should I grow up to satisfy an employer? I am a human being. I grow up the way I want to be. I have all the creative power inside of me. I don't need anybody's approval or anybody's kind of looking at me as a consent that yes, you are okay for me, I can hire you. Why should I do that? I said human beings are born as an entrepreneur, not as a job seeker. So the whole economic system is designed the wrong way to make you fit to find a job. It's a job-oriented economy, not a entrepreneurship-oriented economy. Education system is the same way. The education system is creating people, young people, as a job-ready young people. I said that's a shame. Education system should be producing life-ready young people, not job-ready young people. Life has a purpose. Job doesn't have a purpose. Life is a much bigger thing. The job is a very tiny thing. You are a huge human being. He is giant of a human being. But economic system put you into a job, squeeze you into a little slot, and you rot into that slot, and that's called as a job. You have destroyed your life. You should be exploring your talent, creativity, endless creativity that every human being has. He has no chance because the moment he's ready to do, he's put into that slot. And job is the end of creativity. You have no freedom to think because you are run by orders, commands. You go through the dotted line. You have no freedom to move from the dotted line. Only assurance is when you reach a certain age, you'll be retired, you'll be given pensions and retirement benefits. That's it. That's not a life.
I think that's a brilliant message put as clearly as possible to all the young people who are hearing us. I think that's a wonderful message from you, Professor. And I think, as Dr. Kalam also used to tell us that the purpose of education is not to tell us how to earn a livelihood, but how to live a life. I think living a life is important. With that, I've come to the last question, sir, for today. That is from Vishaka Ranjan. She's in Mathura. Mathura is in northern India. And she's an engineer by qualification, but a communicator by her choice of job. So over to you, Vishaka.
Hi, sir. So my question to you is that how do you think this pandemic is going to impact the goal for an inclusive society? And do you see as an opportunity for any change?
I started by saying that the pandemic has given us a lot of opportunity. One opportunity is we can decide right now, we don't want to go back to the world we are coming from. That world was a terrible world. And there's no reason why we want to go back. We are in a death row. We are about to be sentenced to death in that old world because we are coming to the end of the world by the global warming and all that wealth concentration and everything else. So why do we have to go there to commit ourselves suicide? So our choice is now we can go in a different direction. And that's where all the opportunities we have. A world where there'll be no wealth concentration. It will be zero global warming. It will be zero wealth concentration. It will be zero unemployment. Very simple thing. And we know how to do it. It's not that, this is a utopia and so on. We know everything, how to do it. It's just a reluctance of our machinery. Machinery pushes us into, and our minds is contaminated in our school, our education system, that our education system tells you this is how you live. You have to find a job, you have to get a promotion, you have to get the best job possible, and you have to have a car, you have to. That's not a life. Life is about contributing to the world, helping the world move forward in a direction that you want them to go. That's the world. Life has to have a purpose. Purpose is not a job. Purpose is about your signature on this planet. I was here. This is what I did. And people remember you that you did that. That's it. So that's the kind of thing that, the pandemic has created that opportunity, because we have to start this engine which is stopped. Should we start that engine? I said, no, we don't want to start that engine. We want to build a new engine. This old engine is taking us to the old world, and old world is no good for us. We want to build a new world. That's it. If you go to the old world and you just wait for a few days and it will be over. Your world is finished. And that's the conclusion for everything. The global warming, we know, the countdown has begun. We know that. And with the wealth concentration, it will be a big explosion of anger. And with the unemployment, the massive unemployment. So why should we do that? We want to leave a world which will be shared by everybody. We'll live happily in this world. It will be a planet which will make safer for our next generation. Our children should not be marching in the street against us, that you destroyed our life. Why should we have that kind of world? And all the children all around the world, not just few cities, few countries, all around the world marching, that you have taken away our life. And if this is our children saying that, what about our grandchildren? Will they grow up enough to go in the street to walk? Will they have life of that time? Probably they won't. So what kind of world this is? So we have to decide that this is enough. And thank you, coronavirus. You gave us the opportunity, because we are running in the train, moving in the destruction. So train has stopped. Now we get off the train. We don't want to ride the same train again. We build a new train to take us in a new direction. That's a commitment.
Thank you, Vishak.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vishak.
So thank you for your time. I've met you several times, and I've always in this very clear, very humble conversation which you always bring on the table. It's probably the great teacher inside you, which takes over your conversation, and it always is visible. And I've always been blessed whenever I've met you. And you will remember that in Bangalore, sir, you visited our Kalam library.
Yes, I did. Yes, of course. I remember that very well.
I'm glad to tell you that project is now 453 libraries across India.
Oh my God, yeah.
Villages, government schools, even observatories where children who have done some juvenile delinquency act, they're kept, even in those. And at Kalam Centre, we'll be happy to work with your idea, take your ideas forward in any possible way. You've been
absolutely. We should keep in touch. We should keep in touch. You see, we got disconnected after Dr. Abdul Kalam passed away.
I'll do that, sir. I've been doing that job. I'll definitely do that. And once again, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your
Thank you.
Fully
Enjoyed it.
I've learned. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.